Imagine a looming confrontation between two of the greatest leaders of the 12th century. On one side, Baldwin IV, the leper king of Jerusalem, a shrewd strategist and symbol of Christian resistance in the East. On the other, Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, determined to reclaim the Muslim territories under Crusader control. In 1183, the armies of these two giants met on the plains of al-Fuleh, but against all expectations, there was no battle. Why did two such formidable forces, face to face, not clash in open field? What factors led to the stalemate? And what does this near battle reveal about the mind of Baldwin IV, already weakened by leprosy, yet still firmly leading his kingdom? In this video, you will uncover the political and military backdrop of this silent confrontation, understand the strategic maneuvers of both sides, and dive into the tense atmosphere that dominated the Latin East at the end of the 1180s. Stay with us until the end to uncover why the Battle of al-Fuleh went down in history, even though it was never fought. Follow this journey of tension, cunning, and leadership, where silence spoke louder than swords. By the end of the 12th century, the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem was a fragile entity surrounded by rising Muslim powers. Ruled by Baldwin IV, a young king afflicted by leprosy, the kingdom faced internal challenges such as succession disputes and the ambitions of the nobility, as well as the growing external threat posed by Saladin. The latter, after unifying Egypt and Syria, advanced with the goal of reclaiming the holy territories taken by the Crusaders. Tension between the two leaders peaked in 1183 when a new Muslim campaign put the kingdom on high alert, culminating in the anticipation of combat at al-Fuleh. It was the month of September in the year 1183. Sultan Saladin, at the head of a vast and experienced army, crossed the Jordan River and invaded the lands of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem. His goal was clear: to provoke and weaken the Crusaders, destroy crops and besiege strategic positions, pressuring the region without necessarily seeking direct confrontation. The chosen site for the advance was the fertile valley near the fortress of Beit Shehan, descending toward the plateau of al-Fuleh near Jenin, a known and sensitive route close to the heart of the kingdom. Baldwin, even gravely weakened by leprosy and already struggling to mount a horse, did not hesitate. Gathering the Frankish army that included Templar knights, Hospitallers, and barons from across the kingdom, the king personally marched with his forces to meet the enemy. Contemporary accounts, such as those of Ernul and William of Tyre, highlight the impressive presence of the leper king, draped in white linen under the relentless heat of the plain, facing not only Saladin, but his own physical limits. For several days, the two armies remained camped at close distances in al-Fuleh in a growing tension. The Franks were entrenched near a vital spring, protecting their supply lines, while Saladin tried to encircle and choke their positions. There were skirmishes, small clashes between reconnaissance detachments and attacks on convoys, but neither side took the first step toward full battle. The reason for this mutual restraint was strategic. Saladin, despite his numerical superiority, knew that a direct confrontation against the Frankish cavalry in open terrain could be fatal, as it had been at Montgisard years earlier, when Baldwin had surprised him with a devastating charge. The Crusaders, well-positioned, preferred to maintain their defensive line intact rather than risk an offensive that could be encircled and annihilated. Moreover, both commanders were aware of something greater: the human and political cost of a decisive battle. Baldwin could not afford to lose many men, given the scarcity of reinforcements coming from the west. Saladin, in turn, needed to preserve his forces for future campaigns, including the planned siege of Jerusalem, although that would only materialize years later. The tensest moment occurred when Saladin's troops tried to cut off the Crusaders' access to water and food. However, thanks to the discipline imposed by Baldwin and the good coordination of the knights of the military orders, the Franks managed to maintain control of the main spring and withstand the siege. When they realized the enemy would not move and their own lines were beginning to wear down, Saladin's forces withdrew, not in defeat, but by calculation. Thus ended the almost Battle of al-Fuleh, without lances breaking shields or charges in open field, but with a symbolic victory for Baldwin. He had faced the greatest Muslim leader of his era, resisted the siege with bravery, and once again prevented the fall of his kingdom. The episode solidified his image as a tenacious commander and prudent strategist, even as his body began to give in to disease. The retreat of Saladin's forces after the tense days in al-Fuleh was, for many in the Latin kingdom, a cause for rejoicing. Without launching a major battle, Baldwin had achieved what few expected: to halt the advance of the most powerful Muslim army of the time. However, for the king, the victory came with a grim warning. The tension at al-Fuleh made it clear that Jerusalem could not hold out indefinitely. Saladin's next campaign might be more incisive, and if it caught the kingdom unprepared, it would be fatal. Internally, Baldwin faced growing pressures. His health continued to deteriorate. Nearly blind, with limbs stiffened by leprosy, the king had to begin thinking about a successor. After al-Fuleh, he realized the kingdom needed political and military continuity. Therefore, he reinforced the position of his nephew, Baldwin of Montferrat, still a child, but the only legitimate heir. The leper king also tried to contain the ambitions of dangerous nobles, such as Guy of Lusignan, whose military leadership many considered disastrous. Beyond the succession issue, the battle that never happened highlighted the importance of the military orders. Templars and Hospitallers were fundamental in the defense of the positions at al-Fuleh. Baldwin valued them as loyal and disciplined allies, capable of maintaining the military cohesion of the kingdom. But this growing dependence also caused discomfort among local barons, who feared the increasing power of these autonomous orders, directly tied to the Pope. In the diplomatic field, the episode of al-Fuleh brought unexpected consequences. Some European envoys began to see Baldwin not merely as a sick king, but as a true defender of Christendom. Reports of the king's resolve circulated through European courts, motivating the dispatch of resources and knights, though in numbers far fewer than needed. Pope Lucius III even mentioned Jerusalem's effort against Saladin as an example of combative faith, even as the Crusades in the West were in a state of dispersion. Saladin, for his part, drew valuable lessons from the episode. The siege at al-Fuleh showed that victory over the Crusaders would require more than simple numerical superiority. He realized that internal division among the Christians would be his greatest ally, not brute force. In the years that followed, Saladin redoubled efforts to exploit these political divisions and weaken the unified front that Baldwin, through Herculean effort, still managed to maintain. Baldwin, though victorious in the silent confrontation, knew he had only postponed the inevitable. His energy now turned to protecting the throne, stabilizing alliances, and preparing the kingdom for a future without him. At al-Fuleh, he had shown the world that he was still king, and that leprosy, though consuming his body, did not rob him of the soul of a commander. This moment, however silent it may have been militarily, became a strategic turning point. It was Baldwin's last great personal military act. After that, his appearances in campaigns would become increasingly limited, relying on generals and regents chosen with care. Al-Fuleh remained in memory as the battle that never happened, but that nonetheless altered the fate of the Kingdom of Jerusalem. The story of the Battle of al-Fuleh is above all a testament to Baldwin's silent strength. In a time when glory was measured in bloody conquests, he showed that to resist is also to triumph. Even debilitated by leprosy, he led his army with firmness, defying the greatest sultan of his time and preserving the heart of his kingdom. There were no crossed swords or lances breaking shields, but there was courage, strategy, and a delicate balance between action and prudence. Al-Fuleh reminds us that not every battle needs to be fought with violence to be decisive. It was a moment of resilience where the silence of the unspoken war echoed louder than the blare of trumpets. And it was also the last great military breath of a king who, though condemned by his illness, refused to abandon his people and his faith. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, leave a like, share this video, and comment below. Had you heard of the almost Battle of al-Fuleh? Subscribe to the channel for more episodes on the great moments of the Crusades and the life of Baldwin the Leper King. See you next time.